Breaking news! The heat is rising behind the scenes in Baltimore, and there's plenty to unpack right now. We all know the Ravens are laser-focused on making a Super Bowl run this season, and for that to happen, John Harbaugh needs a rock-solid roster. I've got some major updates that'll get you thinking. So before we dive into the full story, if you've been repping the Ravens for more than 20 years, smash that like button. It's always great to see fans of all ages showing their purple and black pride. And if you really believe we can go all the way this year, drop a comment saying, "Go Ravens! My heart bleeds purple and black." Let's jump straight into it. One of the biggest developments this offseason surrounds safety Darius Washington, a player who came into his own last year and showed the kind of versatility and grit that the Ravens love in their defenders. But instead of locking him in with a secure deal, the Ravens chose a much riskier route. They gave him a right of first refusal tender, which meant that if another team made him an offer and Baltimore declined to match it, they'd lose him for nothing in return. Nada. Zero compensation. That's a bold gamble, especially when you consider what Washington brought to the table last season. Despite being just 5 feet 9 inches, Darius plays with a chip on his shoulder and the energy of a linebacker. He showed flashes of being a real playmaker, which isn't surprising considering how the Ravens signed him originally. When Washington entered the league as an undrafted rookie free agent, Baltimore made it clear they believed in his potential. They gave him a higher signing bonus than most undrafted rookies, indicating they saw something special. Unfortunately, injuries kept him from fully realizing that potential until last year. Last season was Washington's breakout, and he proved he can hang with the best. But now, with no offer sheets signed by the deadline, Washington is essentially locked into the Ravens for 2025 under the $3.26 million tender. It's a play or don't play situation now. So yes, he'll be back in Baltimore, but that doesn't mean the front office is completely sold on his long-term future. This situation adds another layer to what's clearly a strategic pivot by Eric DeCosta and the Ravens front office. Here's the real twist. Even though Washington is coming off a solid season, Baltimore seems hesitant to invest long-term. Maybe it's his injury history. Maybe it's a financial decision. After all, with Kyle Hamilton, super-duper Kyle, waiting for his big payday, it seems unlikely that the Ravens will throw big money at two safeties. Hamilton is a lock to get paid, whether it's this year, next year, or after they pick up his 5th-year option. So where does that leave Washington? It feels like the Ravens are keeping their options open, and that means one thing. Don't be surprised if Baltimore uses a high pick in this year's draft to add a young safety to the mix. Speaking of the draft, it's almost here, and let me tell you, the buzz is real. The Ravens are expected to target a safety early, and Xavier Watts is a name that keeps popping up in mock drafts. He's got the tools, and the Ravens could look at him as a potential insurance policy, or even a replacement, for Washington down the line. This all ties back to the team's long-term planning. They're not just trying to fill holes for 2025. They're building for sustained success, and that includes making tough calls on players like Washington who, while talented, come with question marks. Meanwhile, over on the offensive line, another competition is heating up. The battle between Andrew Voorhees and Ben Cleveland for the starting guard spot is turning into a one-sided affair. Cleveland, with no guaranteed money or signing bonus left, is looking more and more like a placeholder. Voorhees, despite his own injury history, could be the guy if he stays healthy. But just like with Washington, that's a big if. Don't be surprised if the Ravens add more depth or even another starter through the draft. And how about this for a wild twist? One fan mock draft even suggested trading Mark Andrews along with a 4th-round pick for Jalen Ramsey and a 5th-rounder. That's a spicy take, and yeah, it's probably unrealistic, but it does speak to a bigger point. The Ravens aren't afraid to make bold moves, especially when it comes to the defense. Look at what they did with guys like Jadeveon Clowney and Kyle Van Noy. These were players people had written off, and they came to Baltimore and balled out. So even if they don't trade Andrews, expect the Ravens to be aggressive in filling that cornerback hole. There's also chatter about bringing in another tight end in the later rounds, just in case the unthinkable happens and the Ravens part ways with either Andrews or Isaiah Likely down the road. Some fans even floated the idea of trading for Kyle Pitts. Now that's a name that would definitely shake things up, although personally, I'd stick with what we know works. Andrews and Lamar have that chemistry already locked in. As for the wide receiver room, there's intrigue there too. The Ravens signed DeAndre Hopkins, but he's more of a short-term piece. With 11 picks in this draft, there's a good chance Baltimore takes a shot at a young wideout, especially if a talent like Luther Burden or Marvin Harrison Jr. falls into the 2nd round. Yeah, it's a long shot, but hey, stranger things have happened on draft night. And what about kicker Justin Tucker? There's even a scenario where the Ravens could draft his replacement. One mock had them taking Ryan Fitzgerald out of Florida State in the 7th round, citing Tucker's missed kicks in critical games last year. Whether or not that's fair, it's a reminder that no position is off limits when it comes to building this roster. So here's where I want to hear from you. What do you think about the Darius Washington situation? Should the Ravens invest long-term or draft his replacement now? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's talk about it. Now, let's talk about something that's becoming a theme: depth, or more accurately, the lack of dependable depth in a few key areas. On the offensive line, you've got Andrew Voorhees, who's shown potential but carries a history of injury. Ben Cleveland's presence is more symbolic than competitive right now, especially without guaranteed money. So what are the Ravens going to do? Simple. They'll go to the draft, and based on multiple mock scenarios from fans, a 3rd-round pick on an interior lineman like Gerald Wilson makes a lot of sense. Baltimore has shown time and again that they value competition in the trenches, and if Voorhees can't hold down the spot, they need someone ready to step in without missing a beat. This brings us to the tight end room, a position that's become one of Baltimore's deepest and most reliable, but also one of the most intriguing in terms of possible moves. With all contracts set to hit in 2026, there's buzz about whether the Ravens could make a bold trade. Some fans think it's time to cash in on Mark Andrews while his value is high, potentially targeting someone like Kyle Pitts, who's looking for a change of scenery. The argument? Pitts is younger, athletic, and underutilized in Atlanta. But here's the catch. Mark Andrews is already a known quantity, with chemistry that's built into the DNA of the Ravens offense. Still, these discussions open the door to a deeper look at how Baltimore handles its offensive weapons. DeAndre Hopkins brings star power, but he's not a long-term piece. Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman are the future, if Bateman can stay healthy and finally meet his first-round expectations. That's why adding a young wideout in the draft isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity. Whether it's a sleeper like Ty Felton out of Maryland or a shocker first-round slide from a name like Luther Burden, the Ravens are watching the board closely. With 11 picks, they have the flexibility to pounce. And speaking of pouncing, let's talk defense. If you thought the Ravens were going to sit back and let the chips fall where they may, think again. There's serious interest in aggressive draft moves. Fans are even floating scenarios where the Ravens trade up to grab a top edge rusher like Donovan Ezeruaku or a playmaker at safety like Malachi Starks. If they pull that off, suddenly Baltimore could have answers to 2 of its biggest questions in one bold draft day swing. With a front office like this, that's never off the table. So what do you think, Ravens fans? Would you pay Darius Washington long-term? Or do you trust the Ravens to draft his replacement? Should Mark Andrews be part of a blockbuster trade, or is his chemistry with Lamar Jackson too valuable to mess with? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's get the conversation going. And don't go anywhere, because in the next video, we're diving deep into the exact prospects that could be flying to Baltimore on draft night. We'll break down names, positions, scenarios, everything. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. Tap the notification bell, like this video if you're feeling hyped for draft night, and stick around because more content is on the screen now. Go Ravens!